कैसे काम करता है, अभी हम लोग कर रहे थे। और इसके लिए डॉक्टर आर के श्रीवास्तव साहब आप लाइन पे हैं? हेलो हेलो श्रीवास्तव साहब, मेरे ख्याल से अभी श्रीवास्तव साहब है नहीं।
Yes, sir, I am here. I am here. I am here.
जी 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 जी, थैंक यू। तो
Thank you.
मैं आपका एक छोटा सा प्रोफाइल भी क्रिएट किया है, वो और आप मेरे सबसे फेवरेट जेएसडीएम रहे थे, तो आज मुझे मौका मिला है बोलने का, तो मुझे बोलने दीजिए 1 मिनट के लिए। Dr. R.K. Srivastava IS is an author of a book on managing urbanization, climate change, and disaster in South Asia. Another book by him is Disaster Management in India. He served as IS officer for 33 years and as a IPS for 3 years. ये इन्होंने 1984 बैच में आईएएस ज्वाइन किया था। उसके बाद बहुत ही ढेर सारे इंपॉर्टेंट पोस्ट पे रहा, जिसमें कैपेसिटी, जनरल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, मैनेजमेंट, फिनांस, सोशल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलपमेंट, एग्रीकल्चर, एनर्जी, सारे डिपार्टमेंट्स में इन्होंने काम किया। जब मैंने सर को देखा एज ए जेएसडीएम एट मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ होम अफेयर, जहाँ पे आपने बहुत बढ़िया 3-4 प्रोजेक्ट स्टार्ट किया था जो नियरली नीचे तक गया, जैसे स्ट्रेंथनिंग ऑफ फायर इमरजेंसी सर्विसेज इन इंडिया, एजुविनेशन ऑफ सिविल डिफेंस, एनएफएससी कॉलेज, सीडी कॉलेज। उसके बाद सर वहां से चेयर एयरपोर्ट अथॉरिटी ऑफ इंडिया बन के चले गए, जहां पे इन्होंने डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट के लिए एयरपोर्ट में कई एयरपोर्ट का डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट प्लान बनवाने के लिए 20,000 करोड़ का प्रोजेक्ट शुरू करवाया। तो सर को बहुत ही इनसे बढ़िया कोई डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट कैसे काम करता है, गवर्नमेंट कैसे काम करती है भारत में, वो बता नहीं सकता था। इसलिए मैंने सर को इनवाइट किया। सर प्लीज आप डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट ओवरव्यू इन इंडिया पे आपका एक उद्बोधन चाहिए, आपका एक स्पीच चाहिए सर, प्लीज।
Thank you, Nakul. Thank you for expressing kind words for me. It has been long serving in disaster management, and now I am not into the mainstream. But since interest was generated during serving as the joint secretary in the disaster management, that continued and culminated in the form of few books and articles I have been writing from time to time. I will not tell much upon the disaster management in India, because most of it is captured in the book. And since 2000, and after the enactment of 2005 Act, the disaster management in India has come along, and most of the states now doing wonderfully in this sector. Most of the authorities which have been set up in different states and at the central level, they are doing wonderful job, and we are not in that in nascent stage. So therefore, most of the things which is happening in the disaster management sector in country is known to each other. So I will not dwell much, but I will briefly say few words about the disaster management and what should we do about this. If you see our journey in the disaster management field, it started, we since ages, we have been doing the disaster management, and the disaster management has always been the relief centric earlier, the independence. Even if you see the Imambada, the Lucknow, or you see many such structures, the then ruler of that place, they have come out for the relief, providing relief to the people who were in distress because of the drought or because of the other calamities, to give some succour, some wages, some employment, so that they create some structure as well as they give some employment to these people for their livelihood. So this is nothing new, but earlier the disaster management used to be the relief centric. It was always response during the disaster. It was never a pre-disaster kind of the thing. We never did anything on the post-disaster. But the disaster management started catching up in the last 30 years. And we can divide this into three stages. That is the pre-HFA, during HFA, and the post-HFA, which is now we are in the stage of the Sendai framework, where the 10 points and several indicators have been set for all the countries. And this is one step. We are at the higher framework during this phase, what we did during the Hugo framework. So if you see in this, the paramount thing which we need to pay our attention for any kind of the disaster management, that how we make the assessment of the risk profile. And you see, this risk is not coming only from this COVID kind of the things, and where we are living, the risks are coming from three main sources. One is the geographical settings, because what we are doing the disaster management for the mankind, for the human beings. So our local settings, that is the first disaster, first risk is emanating from the geographical setting of that place. And we have, for the long time, we have been only dealing with the disaster which emanates from the geographical settings. And then we have defined several, we have categorized into the hydrometeorological disaster, then the earthquake, and then this landslides. And there are many things which are all related to the geophysical settings. So this geophysical settings has evolved and given the way for the DRR, disaster risk reductions, that is being looked after by the verticals of the disaster. Government have created a vertical for the disaster, and then have come out with the DRR, which we call it. And progeny. As on today, we see. In fact, we have seen several cycles of this global settings, and this we have witnessed several cold cycles when we have faced the ice ages. Now, this ice ages, when this warming took place, now we are living in this kind of when the temperature we have reached to some set of the temperature, and we are feeling that this temperature is fast rising because of the anthropogenic actions. And now we are talking about the climate change adaptation. Now the fallout and the impact of the climate change is more or less the same, which emanates from any geophysical setting if it is disturbed. So how to deal is, then we have been doing this climate change adaptation, we are doing the disaster risk reduction, but outcome, what we want to achieve, want to be the same, and the process is the same. But these two things are being dealt separately by two verticals in most of the government, in most of the countries. Now we are talking about how to blend this CCA and DRR, so that we don't have a duplication of efforts, we don't have a duplication of the expenditure. So, but the third thing which is coming from the urbanization, and which somehow is yet to catch the imagination of the policy makers. If we see the present pandemic of this COVID-19, which we are witnessing, it is mostly localized in the urban areas. Most of the rural areas, we don't see any here. We don't hear anything about what is happening in the rural areas, and what is the rate of increase. Whatever the test happening, it is only happening in the urban areas. So we have to realize that what this and how it is changing our lifestyle and the socio-economic life, and how it is adding to the risk profile of our settings where we are living in. So the risk is not only coming from the geophysical settings. Risk is not only coming because of the climate change, risk is also coming from the urbanization. Most of the Europe, most of the Latin America, most of the Caribbean areas, they are more than 70 to 80% they are urban. The globe is already more than 50% urban. And we are also fast reaching towards the urban world. We are now more than 35%. If you see the South Asia, we are more than 30%, and we are very soon going to reach this 50. We are going to cross this 50% mark. But we are not paying much attention to the risk which is emanating because of the process of the urbanization and how it is impacting the climate change, how it is impacting the geophysical setting, because the most of the urbanization, it is not happening in the settlement, which is a planned settlement. Most of it is happening in the very unplanned kind of the settlement, and most of the disaster, most of the risk, it is happening only in the unplanned settlement. This urbanization is giving rise to the climate change, and the climate change is impacting the urbanization, so it is cutting both ways. So while we are making the risk assessment, we have to factor this component of the risk coming from the urbanization when we are making the plan of any kind of the risk management or the disaster management. We have to factor these things also. And during the COVID time, we are all doing only this COVID management, whatever you are seeing, or the hospital management we are talking. We are talking about the urban areas. We are not talking about the 75%, 65% population we are living in the rural area, because we have not been able to manage very properly in the urban areas. So therefore, these three components we have to see. Now, second thing which I would like to highlight, that we have been talking about the response cycle. That is the pre-disaster. We have divided this entire cycle into three parts. Pre-disaster. Our focus is only what we are doing. We are managing during disaster. Disaster is continuing, and our attention is only for the during disaster management. But if you see the history of this pandemic, it is nothing new. It had happened in early 90s when the epidemic spread from Bombay. Where from it came? It came from the Europe. It came from Europe to Bombay, and from Bombay it spreads to entire country, and we had the phase of almost 2 to 3 years when so many people were affected. Even Mahatma Gandhi, he was also infected by that disease during the 90s. But somehow he survived. Many of them died. But we did not learn anything from that pandemic. We thought that it has come and it has gone. So we have to learn from the history. And when we make any plan for the post-disaster or any disaster management for future generation, then we have to factor the historical component also in our plan and policy for the future management. And we should not be only focused that response means only response during disaster. This response, if whatever we are doing pre-disaster, that is also a response. You are responding to something so that nothing happens, that any risk profile doesn't convert into an event. So prevent that event, whatever we are doing, that is also a kind of the response. So we should call it as a pre-disaster response. As we are calling during disaster response, we are doing every day since March 2020 we have been doing. And the post-disaster, we have been talking about the assessment of the post-disaster need assessment and the what is required to be done post-disaster. So that is also a post-disaster response. The entire cycle is a response cycle. And any response, the entire this pre-disaster activity should be seen as a measure of response. But our response, we think only the during disaster, what we are doing, and our entire attention, whether it is a financial, whether it is a capacity development, it is only for the event during the disaster, we don't pay similar attention for the pre-disaster or the post-disaster. So therefore, we have to somehow fix in our mind that whatever we are doing during entire cycle, it is a response, and the same kind of the vigor, same kind of the strength should be employed for the response. This is the second thing I wanted to highlight. And third is we have to develop one kind of risk elevation platform. As I told you that three risks which is coming from different sources. One is the geophysical, second is the climate change, third is the urbanization. But everybody is doing in their own verticals. But outcome, what we want to achieve is the welfare of the human being. And that is the same. What want to achieve in all the three verticals is the same. And therefore, there should be a mechanism of creating a risk elevation platform where all the players, all the people who are working in different verticals, in different silos, they come together, they talk to each other so that there is no duplication of any kind of the effort, and we don't unnecessarily make a double expenditure, or we whatever the resources we have, we do it painfully and aptly. Third is regarding this capacity development. This capacity development somehow, again, our focus is for the people who are employed during the disaster. Whatever that community participation, community things are done, that is only for the people who are engaged during disaster. But we don't make the capacity development for the people who are employed for the pre-disaster activities. And I will give you very simple example. Most of the people who are there, I think, will be from Delhi. If they go to the AIIMS flyover, the people who created the infrastructure, they only factor the comfort of the people who are flying by buses and all. We did not do anything for the pedestrians. We did not map the contour of that area. As a result, what is happening? We don't have any amenities for the people who are walking on the streets. Pedestrians, they don't have anything on any road of Delhi. Because pedestrians, 80% people who are moving on the roads, they are the pedestrians, common people, but we don't factor their comfort, their requirement in our infrastructure. This has happened only, and as a result, what is happening? Since we did not make any risk profile assessment, we did not take the contour map of the geophysical settings of the people or urban area where the new townships are coming. We create infrastructure without accounting for that. As a result, we face disaster every day. If there is any rain in Delhi, the inevitable thing is that there will be a road jam. People will be jammed in that traffic for 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. It is only because the people who are employed for these pre-disaster activities, their capacity has not been increased. They need to be given, their capacity enhancement is required. That is the foremost thing we should employ. And they require more capacity development than anybody who are employed for the during disaster. Then we will not create an infrastructure which creates flood, which unnecessarily impedes the flow of normal flow of any rain or any kind of thing, any activity. So the capacity development, who are the people who are there engaged in the pre-disaster activity, that needs to be done. That should be the focus of all the policy and plan maker. And similarly for the third, the post-disaster management, we create infrastructure after the event has happened, and we create similar kind of the infrastructure because their capacity has not been increased. We are creating infrastructure in Delhi every day, which doesn't last long because the people who are employed, their capacity has not been done, whether they are into the road making or into the electricity sector, or you talk of any social infrastructure or the economic infrastructure. People who are increasing, they need to be, their capacity development should be done. And I wanted to share many other things, but since I have to go somewhere, so I will end here only. And I wish all the best for this, and Nakul particularly, despite being and this kind of thing, to galvanize so many people who have come to share their views.
थैंक यू सर, आपने बिल्कुल एक जो टॉप लेवल से बिल्कुल सही गाइडेंस आना चाहिए वो आया है आपके तरफ से। और इसमें सर काफी पार्टिसिपेंट्स जो हैं वो न्यू डॉक्टर्स हैं जो अभी एमबीबीएस कर रहे हैं। इस पार्टिसिपेंट्स में उनको आपसे काफी कुछ सीखने को मिला होगा, आई एम वेरी श्योर। और जो भी क्वेश्चंस आएगा वो आप नहीं होंगे तब मैं जवाब देने की कोशिश करूंगा, आपका शूज पहनने का कोशिश करूंगा मैं, और जो नहीं दे पाऊंगा वो मैं आपको भेजूंगा कि ताकि फिर बाद में इनको जवाब दे पाए हम लोग।
One more thing before I part.
जी जी।
One thing regarding this hospital management, one thing I'm unable to comprehend it. In this COVID, all the hospital healthcare have been only healthcare for 50%. People are dying of the cancer also. People are dying of the blood pressure also. People are dying of the BP or many other diseases also because of the heart attack also. But if you go to any hospital, you don't have any healthcare. Means something you have muted all the other audience people, and only one audience is available only for the COVID patients. This is something I am unable to comprehend. Which kind of the healthcare we are providing for and whom we are providing for. The 90% of death are happening and 90% healthcare is required other than the COVID also. I somehow I am unable to apprehend why have we stopped healthcare for other patients? Why we have stopped?
हम लोगों के अभी
we have closed the hospitals, we have closed all the private hospitals. Only COVID. Something, people are dying and people are suffering. We just cannot be oblivious to their disease. Therefore, whosoever are hearing this must understand that people have emergency. I have had an emergency, and I have not known few doctors there privately. I would not have people who have.
अभी डॉक्टर्स आएंगे सर। अभी
next request between those who are from the hospital or those who are in this sector, other patients also. Thank you very much.